Grace and peace. God is good. Yeah, He is. All right. We're going to greet each other in Jesus' name. And as we greet each other in the name of the Lord, let's always remember as we're greeting each other that it is Hebrews says there's reasons why you gather. Exhort one another and provoke one another unto love and good works. And so won't we do that now tonight, and then we'll be sharing. Okay? Bless you all.
Wonderful, safe. And know where my soul's going. That's all necessary. You ready to go?
All right. Tonight, we're going to talk about a very important word. And the Bible does not, that I know of, make mention of the word itself. But in the Bible, you can see this word being implemented or being projected in the word, and it's the word adjustment. It's the word adjustment. And in talking about that word, I want you to think in line with this, that when life shifts, but the mission still stands. Life shifts, but the mission still stands. And there are several instances in the Bible where you see the word adjustment portrayed. Peter in the 10th chapter of Acts. And as you would know, he has a vision by God, and God allows him to see these animals, and Peter responds in a negative way. And it is God that tells him that don't call anything unclean that I've called common and clean. So Peter was going to have to make an adjustment in terms of his thinking relative to God's expansion of the kingdom. And it wasn't that God was waiting on Peter for the expansion of the kingdom. God was already expanding the kingdom in his sovereignty. But he had to bring Peter along with him. And in Peter coming along with God, Peter needs to adjust to what God is doing. Esther has to adjust. Esther 4:16. She has to adjust because she is told that all of her brothers and sisters from an ethnic perspective are going to be killed. So she has to adjust from just being in the king's palace to now interceding for the people that the king had given the authority to destroy them. She had to adjust. Ruth has to adjust in terms of her transition with Naomi. Moses had to adjust. Now Moses adjusted. He was in the hierarchy of the Pharaoh. So I have to believe that he was being mentored and developed in leadership. But he transitioned he transitioned to being a shepherd. And after being a shepherd, God spoke to him, and now he says, now I need you to go tell Pharaoh to let my people go. Now he has to transition back to a position of leadership. David has to transition from being a shepherd to a king. And so all of it, I think that sometimes we assume that this transition of adjustment is easy. It is not easy because sometimes you're transitioning from something that you're comfortable with to something that you may not be comfortable. And so the transition is not only a physical transition, it is also a mindset transition. And having a mindset transition would say, how am I thinking? Because my thinking is going to determine how well I can adjust to this new circumstance that I have now discovered or has come my way. Now, none of these people really asked for these circumstances to happen. It was, they were not pre-warned or forewarned or pre-warned that this was going to happen. It happened, and when it happened, they had to make a decision about adjustment. So as I talk about this tonight, I have asked for the first time my sons to join me in this discussion with you about adjustment. So I don't want them to delay their coming. Okay. I am the father and they are the sons. And so we're going to talk about, and we're going to try to make this applicable because adjustment is something that we all go through. And in making this applicable, so tonight the discussion is going to be about adjustment. Now let me give you a definition of what adjustment is. Adjustment is the act of changing or adapting to fit new circumstances, ensuring balance, growth, and functionality in life. All right? Adjustment is the act of changing or adapting to fit a new circumstance or circumstances, ensuring balance, growth, and functionality in life. So, with that definition and understanding definition, I'm going to ask you, what is involved in adjustment?
I would say what's involved in adjustment is a mission or a goal. Something that is bigger than what you may be going through, or something large that keeps your focus and where you want to go. So I would say a mission or being married to a mission or a goal is necessary.
Okay, so mission is a purpose, it is a goal for then someone to accomplish. So a mission has to be in our thinking. I'm going to make this statement. It has to be something that we are committed to, and the commitment will determine how much I am willing to accept this as my personal endeavor. Because if I don't accept it as my personal endeavor, I don't think anybody will be able to then accomplish that. So if we're going to talk about the adjustment, then what is involved in adjustment? If mission is involved in adjustment, do I have to be committed to it?
Yeah, you definitely have to be committed, tied to whatever that mission is, whatever that thing is that's bigger than you, whether it is something that you're reaching for. So in a team perspective, whether it's we're tied to the mission of winning a championship, we're tied to a goal of being the best that we can be, you have to be undoubtedly committed, connected, tied into, have buy-in to whatever that thing is, to keep you focused, to keep you moving in that one linear direction.
I use the word married to that because I think that word itself fits what I'm talking about in terms of commitment. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you think about marriage, it's a covenant with something. Mm-hmm. And missions don't have value mm-hmm. if you're not in covenant with it.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I could use an example. I mean, I think probably everybody would say that COVID was a time of adjustment. Mm-hmm. That there was no way you could get around this reality that things are changing. Mm-hmm. It happened to us, even in human services with kids care. Our commitment, our responsibility was providing safe, healthy, developmental space for children while their parents were away. But when COVID hit, it completely changed the game. How we could do what we needed to do was in jeopardy. Many centers closed. Many families left public child care. But in our case, our commitment to the mission, our buy-in, our marriage to saying our responsibility is to provide this service to families who are in need required us to adjust by any means necessary.
Okay.
Which created a whole domino effect of things that we had to do in order to keep the mission alive for this undetermined amount of time.
So that marriage to that mission in times of circumstances not expecting draws out of us something to respond to the new circumstance. So that's kind of the creativity.
Yes. Yeah.
It comes out of the creativity comes out of the challenge of the new circumstance.
Yes.
The new circumstance draws out of us something that we didn't know was there.
And the commitment, the marriage to the mission also spurs the creativity that if you're not married to it, then you can succumb to COVID.
Yeah, I'm not going.
It was easy for a lot of people to just close.
Yeah.
But I remember COVID, and I remember, because I worked for Human Services, so I'm down in the gym, and we are coming up with, we're putting poles in the volleyball holes, and we're taking curtains, clear plastic curtains that were approved by the state, to divide the gym into separate pods so that we could adhere to the regulations and stay open and stay tied to the mission.
Right.
So that creativity went to another level when you're tied, married, committed, responsible to the people that you serve.
Yeah.
Y'all are smarter than I am. I cannot. but if you think about it, and it just dawned on me, the circumstance really, and this is what we struggle with. We struggle with these circumstances because we think it's the end of the world when it's pulling, almost destroying something. But when you don't want it destroyed, you just discover that you've got something that can respond to the moment.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Which means we cannot run from circumstances because circumstances bring the best out of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Man.
I mean, I've learned over time how enjoyable adjustment can be through experience because of those evolutions. Usually when you're adjusting to make something better or to sustain something. But like you said, there was a whole element of growth and things that come out that would have never come out if you didn't make the decision to adjust.
I almost got to the place, now that we're talking about COVID, I almost got to the place that I didn't want people to come back to church. And the reason why I got there was because we had to be creative in what we were going to present on social media. We could build stuff,
Right.
and bring another twist to the presentation. And then when you come back to church and it's the normal weekly stuff, and I was excited about being creative.
Right.
I mean, I was excited about being creative, and now I'm back to just coming to church, and there's no creation here. But that was the exciting part. I always believe this, that creativity is put in us because God can use it as a tool also to win people.
Yeah.
So the circumstance can cause the mission. When there's a circumstance, the creativity comes out when there's a circumstance that is becoming problematic for the fulfillment of the mission. Now, let me ask this question. So, can I then be comfortable in saying that every sphere of our influence has a mission? So when I talk about spheres of influence, I mean, you all know what I say about that.
Yeah, and wherever we are, there is a reason why we are where we are. And in all of those spheres of influence, there's a mission that you're probably going to be tied to, whether it's vocation, whether it's in school, whether it's here at church, whether it's in the neighborhood. There's a mission, there's something you're tied to that's going to keep you engaged. But as you're engaged and there's a mission, there's liable to be adjustment at some point.
I mean, it has to be though, because I received a call from one of our members who is aging, and he asked me. He said, "Landon, me and my wife are preparing to go into assisted living, and in doing this is a whole new thing for us, and we're trying to figure out how this is going to happen." Mm-hmm. But from that phone call, as we've been talking about this topic, it was another thing to say, if you're alive for a period of time, adjustment is going to be required whether you want it to be or not.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So figuring out how to maneuver in it, to accept it, to make the best of it is essential, because just for the simple fact of you aging is going to create adjustment that you were not thinking of or prepared for.
So that mission really has to mean something to you in order for you to respond to it the way you should, in order for your responsibility to be carried out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, because I'll slide in when I got the phone call. From what I know of the two individuals, the husband is doing it for the wife.
Okay.
He's not, he doesn't have as many physical limitations as his spouse, but the mission of them staying together, right, the mission of him being there for her, you could tell in his conversation, he was making the adjustment because his commitment above anything else was for him and his wife to be together as long as possible, and him to serve in his role as a husband.
Yeah, and that's what that covenant is. That covenant pushes you in that. If there's a genuine commitment to it, that person is saying it was till death do us part.
Yeah. Yeah.
So whatever that person needed to do to make that adjustment, they were making that. So mission is in our different spheres of influence, and we are there for a purpose, mm-hmm, and we're there for a reason, mm-hmm, and we have to understand our reason and purpose for being in that particular space, mm-hmm, so that God can maximize our presence, mm-hmm, in that space. Mm-hmm. Okay, so adjustment. Then why do we need to adjust?
For different reasons. We adjust, and sometimes we get to the point where in certain circumstances we will say, why am I the one that has to adjust? And we can ask that question a lot of times when we can readily point to 3 other people who could make an adjustment, and I could stay in my comfort zone. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, why me? Why isn't Landon the one that has to make the adjustment?
Y'all probably had that problem at the house.
Yeah. Why? But sometimes we have to, as we're looking at why me, we're looking at it from a different lens, and God is trying to pull something out of us a lot of times, because it's why not me? Right. Is the question that we got to ask sometimes, is why not me? Because when we are making adjustments, and as a coach, I can be in situations where I'm asking a player to do something different, something that they don't normally do. So everybody likes to score, all right? But Scott understands that. Everybody likes to score. Everybody wants to be a scorer. Everybody wants to shoot it like Steph Curry. Yeah. All right, but not everybody can be Steph. Somebody's got to be Dennis Rodman.
Right. Right.
Somebody's got to rebound. Somebody's got to defend. Yeah. Yeah. And you have people, and another basketball analogy, Pat Beverly, who averaged like 50 points a game in high school. Yeah. And now he's in the NBA, and he's a defender, and that is it. That's all he does. He had to make an adjustment, a hard adjustment, but in interviews, he always talks about, I had to make the adjustment so I could stay in the league. So I could remain valuable in this league. I had to become a defender. I had to adjust. He said, now I can score with anybody. Let me play one-on-one with anybody. I can put the ball in the basket. But in order for me to maintain value in this league, I had to adjust.
So,
Can I add?
yeah, you can do it.
There's a scenario. I mean, obviously, most of my work is in church,
Yep.
and being in ministry. This ministry being, I wasn't in ministry since 1989, but the ministry has been alive since 1989. There is a massive amount of evolution taking place in the ministry over time. But one of the most valuable assets that I talk about, that I believe our ministry has, is that we have an aging group who has been here since 89, early 90s, mid 90s, but many of them, which has been beautiful to watch, which some of you are here, has been their willingness to adjust. Because ministry has changed significantly in what it looks like and what it sounds like. The goal is always to never change the principle and the commitment to the word, but having individuals who have been around for a while who are making the adjustment to still find a way to be relevant to a newer generation coming in. That wisdom being passed down is essential. And it can set a ministry apart from other areas or other ministries when you can combine those generations. But most of the time, that's only possible if you have an aging group that's willing to adjust. Because if they want to keep everything the exact same way it was back in the day, you're going to lose a lot of those new believers coming in when you've been around for 30-some years.
And while you're saying that, I think it's also important to understand there are fundamentals that are not up for adjusting.
Correct. Yes.
And sometimes we see times change and we see presentation change, but there are fundamentals, and I think that, I may be off subject now, I think there are fundamentals that we're missing today that really make ministry valuable. Years ago, those of you who remember, every Wednesday we had prayer. And probably 75 to 80% of the people who were calling themselves members of New Covenant were at prayer. We had teaching Sunday night because we were at the King Center, so we had to adjust. We couldn't have the same schedule as most churches had because we had to have a schedule that matched where we were having church. So we had Sunday night teaching and we had prayer on Wednesday
Upstairs.
and then we had a monthly fellowship, I think. Then we would eat together. I know that. We would get together. Now, those are fundamentals to me. And many times, the larger you get, the more you forget the fundamentals. And it's those fundamentals that make a church a church. Prayer makes a church. Teaching makes a church. Those two things right there. And fellowship. Fellowship, prayer, and teaching. Three fundamentals that make a church. And those three fundamentals are sometimes what we run from. Because it doesn't change. I don't care what kind of song you're doing. Fundamental teaching, prayer, fellowship. Can't forget any of that.
But you didn't. Even with the
Yeah, I don't know.
because with the evolution of COVID and all of that, you just pray differently.
Yeah.
Because you all, and it's so sad to
There
say
you go,
you all, and this is a you all because I don't get up at 7 and it's not acceptable.
Yeah.
I'm an early bird.
Thou shalt confess.
Yes, but 7 a.m. prayer, but you still have on-site prayer as well.
That's true.
You've made adjustments that you didn't see yourself back in 89, 90 doing. Teaching the classes we have online, now we're getting back to having classes in person. So some of those elements, even if you have to change and get creative, to your point, they can't change.
So I'm the leader, right? I'm the leader. So I'm calculating numbers, right? I'm saying I got 8% of the people that are attending King Center are coming to prayer. I don't have 80% of the people praying.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Collectively. Together.
Collectively.
Yeah.
No, not even collectively. If I took the Saturday night, why am I talking about this? The Saturday night and the Saturday morning and then the Saturday evening, I still don't have 80%.
Right.
I still, but I adjust. I still stick to the fact that everybody's got to remember the basic fundamentals of a thriving church are prayer, teaching, and fellowship.
Yes. Yes.
Those are the three fundamentals. Those are three fundamentals. Now I have to adjust because I know that I cannot force people to do anything anymore. Back then they just did it. I had to beg nobody when the church started. Right. But now you got to. Yeah. Anyway, and I've adjusted.
Yes, you have.
I've adjusted so I don't make a lot of public noise.
Public noise. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Public. You make noise. It just ain't public.
Right. No, it's not just public, right? But I do make private noise.
Sir.
I do. Okay, so what do you need to adjust?
Trust.
Okay.
Trust. In order to adjust, you have to have trust. You have to trust the source that is kind of getting you to adjust or making you adjust. Mm-hmm. You have to trust what's in front of you. Once again, basketball coach. All right, I understand that if I ask a player to make an adjustment, they have to trust me. They have to trust that what I'm telling them is going to work. It's going to help the team. It's going to be the betterment of the collective.
You keep walking in the dark and you can't really see you over there. Go ahead. Coach, go ahead.
So you have to trust the source of where the adjustment is being called from for. You have to trust God. He's asking you to make an adjustment. You have to trust him. You have to trust that what he's asking you to do, what he's telling you to do, what he's urging you to do, you got to trust that he's doing it for your good.
Okay.
And I'll admit it's hard for me. I know some people say, I trust you until you give me reason not to. I don't function that way. That's really hard for me to trust first. I need to have some experience. I need some proof of concept when it comes to dealing with each other. It's hard to trust sometimes.
And everybody used to get on me about this because I struggled trusting. You know, I struggle trusting because there's a certain way I want something done. And it's hard for me to accept it not being done in a manner that not will brand me, but brand the kingdom.
Okay.
And for me, adjustment is, I had to understand people. To be a leader, you have to understand people. And to understand people, You cannot understand them from afar. To understand people, you have to get to know them. And getting to know them gives you a sense of who you're dealing with, and then you have to know yourself as well. So when you talk about trusting, trusting for me is I trust you after you prove to me I can trust you. If I can't, when I mean this, I mean trust you for what I think the two of us can do together. And we can't do it together if we're not on the same page. So I have to adjust. I tell the story all the time about a friend whose name I would not mention because everybody will know who I'm talking about. Right. But it's one of my best friends.
Okay. You don't have a lot of friends, so that's not even gonna be hard to get. Okay. Like you saying,
it's one of my friends, like and we did things. Debbie will remember this. We did things at the convention, and my friend was good at what they did. They were better than anybody else that I knew that could do this. But my friend was slow. My friend never had anything ready until the last minute. And I'm sitting around saying, why do I put up with this? Well, I put up with this because I know I'm going to get a good product, even if it's at the last minute. I'm wondering, I'm hollering, I'm saying, get it done. We got 2 hours. But I adjusted. He's still my friend. But I adjusted. I adjusted because I knew he could accomplish what I needed for him to accomplish. So I adjusted to that because I understood the final product. And sometimes you make those kind of decisions because, and you can't do this with everybody because everybody will not produce. So I only trust the people I could trust. So what do you need in order?
Real quick, with trust though too, are there scenarios where you find yourself more willing to trust based upon your repeated frustration of failure? So normally it's hard to trust, normally this, but if my dominating thought is, but I'm getting sick of failing at this thing.
That is true.
So I may be more prone if I can at least, I mean, you hate when you get to your rock bottom, but sometimes you get to your rock bottom and just the frustration of failure makes you more willing to trust to make that move, even if it is with someone or something that you don't have a lot of history with, but you hear it works, but I'm so sick of failing, I'm willing to make that step.
But you have to be willing to admit you're failing. You have to be willing to admit for people to be able to come to you that you trust now, because everybody tells you you're failing and you don't trust that person who just told you were failing.
Well, like you said, if it's me, I'm sick of my own failure. You don't have to tell me that I'm failing. I know based upon my circumstances around me that this ain't working. This ain't it.
Okay.
And so I'm just saying that sometimes will drive us to trust, which may lead to that adjustment, but it may just come from just failure or repeated failure in my life.
And there's a sense of humility that has to set in order for you to get to that point where I am looking at myself and saying that what I'm doing is not working. I have to at some point humble myself to be able to accept the fact that it's me, it's self-inflicted. And that's difficult. That's really difficult at times, to be able to just not point the finger at the circumstances and the things that's going on around me, to be able to humble myself and be able to look at me in the mirror and say, I've got to make a change. I've got to adjust if I want to get different outcomes. If I want to win, I got to make this decision.
So that's even with family, job, volunteering, all of that.
Yep, when I changed jobs, I worked here for a very long time. And when I had to make the decision that it was in my family's best interest for me to do something different, it was tough because, working at the church, it's just family in here, I had a lot of freedom. I create my own schedule.
You do have an online audience. It's not just family.
Oh yeah, this is family. This is family.
Listening.
And everybody's family. I had a lot of freedom. I come when I want. I'm doing my work, but I'm coming and going as I please. I create my own schedule. Everybody else said I had a flex schedule. I had a flex schedule here at church. All right, but I had to make an adjustment because now I'm going to be going into the corporate environment where I'm not creating my own schedule. I'm now leaning on clocking in and clocking out, making sure that I am reporting and doing the things that I need to do between this time and this time. And that was kind of scary for me because I like to do what I want to do when I want to do it and be able to float and do work when I want to do it. But it was scary for me, but that was the best thing for my family. Mm-hmm. But in making that decision, it took me some time, but I didn't know, because everybody knows coaching is very important to me as well. Yeah. So my coaching, we practice at 2 o'clock every day. So I can't go to just any job and get off at 2 o'clock and go to basketball practice.
Right.
But when God starts pushing you and he starts talking to you, you don't know what he has in store for you. I didn't know what he had in store for me. I didn't know that when I went into the only interview that I went to, got the job, and they was okay with me leaving at 2 o'clock every day. Right. I didn't know that was going to happen.
Right.
But my obedience and my marriage, my real marriage, and my marriage to my mission to do what's best for my family took me in that direction, and God made provision. Because he didn't give me the passion to coach for it to be squandered just because of a job. He gave it to me because that's a part of my mission. That's a part of my purpose. So he made provision for that.
Somebody taught you well. I don't know who taught you. Somebody taught you well.
His big brother.
Okay, you triggered something because that also is linked to family and everything else that we do. Everything we do, and when we have all of these spheres of influence, right, where we are, there is some responsibility for our being in those spaces, and there is expectation in all of these spaces by whoever you are interacting with, and most of all, as a representative of the kingdom, you want to represent God well in all of these spaces. So I'm going to ask you guys, how are you married to all of these spaces?
How are you married to all of these spaces?
Mission here, there's a mission there, there's a mission there, there's a mission there.
Let me see if I'll answer it correctly. First and foremost, obviously, being God-led and inspired is essential because it's a lot to do. So how I'm connected to those missions, they all are also connected to a goal or something bigger. So, as a husband, as a father,
right,
as an employee or an employer,
right,
in all of those cases, it's essential for an element of management as well. But I'm not quite sure where you might be going, so I'll give you a minute to.
Well, okay. Every sphere of influence has a mission. As a father, as a husband, as an employee. There is this corporation, but there's subdivisions of that family corporation. There is this corporation where you work and whatever your role is in that corporation. Your mission, it has to be what? Here, and it has to be something here, and it has to be something there. And what I mean by that, your role there is going to be important to the overall accomplishment of that corporation. Your role here is going to be important to the success of the family. So how do you marry yourself to both of those so that your contribution is a contribution, and you make adjustments where you need to make adjustments, because if you don't, there's some aspect of that corporation that won't survive, or there's some aspect of this family that won't survive.
Character.
Okay?
I have to be me everywhere that I am, because in all of those spheres of influence, God has me in those places for a reason. Those places need me to be the best version of me wherever I am, whenever I'm there. So I have to make sure when you talk about fundamentals,
Right.
the fundamentals of how I carry myself, the fundamentals of how I operate on a daily basis, those things are going to carry me and help me be successful in all of those different areas and all those different places. All right, so if I'm honest, I'm timely, I am trustworthy. All right, if I can take all those things to my spheres of influence, then I'm making those spheres of influence better places when I show up.
Okay, let me get more specific. So have you ever had to make adjustments, like with your family? Or in relationships?
Yeah, I mean, embracing adjustment, once again, is essential if you're going to be effective. Because things just change. I mean, obviously, I have 2 children. Now, 23 and 22. And at some point, you change from being the parent, the disciplinarian, to at some point, now it's starting to shift that you're trying to figure out how to manage being a friend, kind of a coach, because, you know, when they're younger, if something happens, you have to be scared of me.
Right.
So I have to ensure I put the proper amount of fear in my children, so when they do, as minors go left, they at least say, oh my goodness, when I get home, what is my dad gonna do to me? But as they get older, that fear is no longer effective, and hopefully you don't want it. I don't want my kids to be in their 20s and I'm walking around trying to be a disciplinary and scaring them. So you have to start adjusting to their evolution, hopefully instilling things in them so that when they start to now see the consequences are life consequences, now they start to understand a little bit more about disappointing God instead of just disappointing their parent. Like, it requires me to adjust how I talk to them, how I treat them, how often I hug them. All these things have to adjust. So I think if embracing adjustment will assist you on your job, in your marriage, with your personal relationships, with your parenting, but embracing adjustment and getting comfortable with how you adjust and the components of that is essential.
And I can give you an example of that. Is I have traditionally taken after my father, and I'm not a real huggy type.
Why are you talking about? Why do I have to be the scapegoat?
I don't know. But as of late, I have really started to make an adjustment with my daughter. And as I've been, reading, getting older, maturing, and understanding that time is flying. My daughter's 16 now, and I'm like, okay, 2 years from now, she's gonna be in college and away from me. Like, there's one thing that I have to make sure that she knows and understands is that I love her. And that I care for her. So I started hugging more. I started hugging more. And at first I would go to hug and she'd be like, Dad, like I'm not used to this. But the more and more I hug, now she's starting to lean into it. Now she's starting to accept it. But the adjustment that I made, now I'm starting to see the result of it. In that it's not something that she necessarily cringes at or hates. It's something that she wasn't used to, but now I'm starting to see that she now is starting to lean into it and embrace it and enjoy it and be okay with it. Yeah. And the same thing for me. Yeah. So I've grown personally in this, that now through this adjustment, now it's not a struggle for me. It's not a struggle for me anymore. Now I can hug and not be like, I'm forcing myself to do it just to make sure that she doesn't go off and do something crazy. Because,
some boy.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, like
Exactly.
she doesn't need a hug from some kid at school. I'm like, no, So, but I've grown through my own adjustment, and I think it has benefited her at the same time.
It's good. Good.
Which then requires an element of resilience, though, right?
Yes.
And
that's important.
In adjusting, most adjustments aren't just a one-off. Like, oh, let me just change and that's it. It's usually a process, and in many cases, a life change, which requires a level of resilience, because it's always easy to go back to your old ways. It's always easy to say, and it was much easier for me when it was this way. So I think we can't eliminate as well. Resilience is important, and building that muscle memory is critical to sustain an effective adjustment. Because adjusting and then going right back is a waste of time.
So a real good word for adjustment is sacrifice.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Sacrifice is a really good word because you're giving up something for something else.
Yeah.
And the something else you're giving it up for is so important that you're willing to give up this to achieve that. That's what you were doing with your daughter.
Yes.
Yeah.
You were giving up your norm to accept a new norm because there was something you wanted an outcome from that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that outcome meant so much to you that you were willing to step outside of the comfort zone of what you hadn't done to start doing something different.
Yeah.
So adjustment is sacrifice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is a kingdom principle. I mean, that is the kingdom principle to the point where Jesus was that sacrifice for someone or someones who were so important to him that he actually dealt with pain, emotional pain, physical pain, being overlooked by the people he had come to save. But yet he sacrificed his life for their good. So there's always got to be some good for someone else that you're willing to make the personal sacrifice. So when you make that personal sacrifice, it's always for the other. And that other is always outside of you. And that's the beauty of that adjustment. Resilience. Being, enduring, patiently going through something because you understand the big picture.
And that's sometimes the difficult part is when you're making adjustment, from a basketball perspective, we would always, we talk to players about their role each year. And when they were asking them to make an adjustment, that adjustment isn't just for one game. That adjustment is for the entire season. And sometimes that's difficult, and that's where the resilience comes in, because game one, you know, things might not look like what you, coach, that's not, like, he only had 2 points, and you telling me not to shoot, and you want me to go rebound, and he had 2 points. No, it's long term. You got to play the long game with the adjustment. And at the end of the day, you got to do it and be resilient and be able to stick with it. And then that's where the trust comes in. I got to trust what the coach said. I got to trust what he told me at the beginning of the season, game 5, game 6, game 7, game 8. I got to trust what he said at the beginning and carry that through.
So you really have to give them a desire for the team.
Yep.
The team, we want to win. So what is going to be my role in our winning? So that sacrifice is for the good of the team.
For the good of the team.
And when you go back to saying what you keep consistent in the other areas, it seems like sacrifice is that other consistent principle, because most of the cases are some kind of team or group.
Right.
Even if I'm in church and it's my ministry or my department, there's an element of sacrifice in order for that to be accomplished. So I think that is very good, that sacrifice is essential.
Right. And so I think that that's where we're going to stop in a minute. That's where we need to be in terms of the adjustment here. Because I think that that's the greatest struggle with church. That's the greatest struggle with life, is that adjusting requires looking at the big picture. Can I see the big picture enough that I'm willing to individually do what I need to do in order for that big picture to come into fruition? And that becomes, that is just a solid principle in life.
Absolutely.
That's a solid principle. You guys got anything else you want to say to end this?
No, sir. I will say this. In the scripture,
Okay.
at some point, can we come back and talk about the 3 times?
Oh, with Peter?
With Peter, because if God is saying something and you know it's him,
Yes.
but it required 3 times
Right.
For him to give in.
Right.
So, like, adjustment obviously is not easy in that sense.
Right.
But I just found that interesting in the scripture, which, once again, it's 8. So I'm not saying you got to do it now, but you just got to come back to that part when it comes to adjusting, that it takes multiple times sometimes.
Well, but that's kind of consistent biblically. That's the way it was with Moses. How many times did God have to talk to Jonah? Right? That's kind of consistent with God in terms of how he deals with us. Because he understands, well, not that he understands us, that it helps us understand us. It helps me understand me, that I need you to say this several times before I get it. And then after you said it several times, I still don't get it. And I'm still like Jonah trying to get on the bus, trying to find a way to get away from this, the residence of my confrontation with you. I'm trying to get away from that, but that's who we are. And I think that is the other, we don't have time. Here's the other part of this, our humanity. This is what I think that we fail to overlook. We are human. And in our humanity, in our Christianity, we try to be in heaven before we get to heaven. And we are always going to be imperfect here.
That's okay.
We're always going to be imperfect here. We all have kryptonite. We all do. And it makes it difficult. And it's always, okay, it's always about the other person and not about me. And that's why it's hard to adjust. Because it's always about them, not about me. What is my contribution? What did I do? What could I have said? And then sometimes we're not willing to adjust. Even when we know that we need to adjust, we still don't want to do it. And that's still our humanity. See, we've got to be able to deal with people where they are to help them go where God wants them to go.
Yes.
And we cannot make them heavenly creatures when they're human.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, sir.
The Holy Spirit does a work, but I have to cooperate with the Holy Spirit. So that so the adjustment is necessary. All of us need it. And hopefully we have touched a little bit of this to help you understand the power of adjustment. There's some things we didn't talk about, but to help you understand the power of adjustment and to know that adjusting is not a bad thing. As we said, it's a game changer. That makes that a good thing. Okay? All right. I got any questions you might have? We'll take two if you have two. If you don't have any, we are through. No questions?
Sister Heidi.
Where? Oh, Heidi, not a question. What she
She
said?
said, is it a bad thing?
No, Heidi. No, Heidi. Not a bad thing, Heidi.
It's not a question so much as a comment, and it really brought it out in this discussion for me, that being married to the mission and the goal can help manage the emotions of having to pivot.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of when I needed to quit my job, my full-time job, to take care of my dad full-time.
Yeah.
That was not an easy thing to do, but my goal of taking care of my dad as safely as possible, as long as possible on my own, I got over it.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
That's a good point, too. Caretaking is an adjustment.
Yeah.
And caretaking is not simple, it's difficult. And there's a whole lot I could say about this, but in understanding, especially in our church now, there are numerous people who are caring for family members. That's not easy. I mean, it's just not easy when you have to care for somebody and care for their well-being because they can't care for themselves. And so that's why that this word adjustment is a very important word, because we have to understand that it's a part of life. And I shouldn't say, why did God put this on me? No, God didn't put that on. It's part of life. And you have to adjust to life. You don't have to put God in it. Just say, this is what life is. This is what this commitment, where it's put me. So I have to accept that as life and not accept it as God judging me, or there's some judgmental action of God has put me in this dilemma. It should be a privilege to sacrifice. It should be a privilege to sacrifice, because in the end, when it's a privilege, you're willing to make whatever necessary changes necessary to make sure that your commitment is honored and respected. So that's, yes. Thank you. Okay? All right. Thank you all so much. I hope you got something out of this tonight. Hopefully, prayerfully. I must tell you,